Hello, and welcome to another episode of Third Chances. My today guest is Martin Gillespie. He's calling from Great Britain, and he is a global leader of metabolic health. He's a founder and CEO of GEM Wellness Warriors, an international metabolic health and wellness consulting business. He has several years of experience in challenging the status quo of the current delivery of mental, nutritional, environmental, and physical health, and treating the root cause of chronic disease and cognitive decline. I think we have a lot in common here with Martin, and that's why we kind of got connected and liked each other's work. He has a really extensive experience from corporate career with over 25 years of global experiences, leading teams, acquisitions, strategy, sales, marketing. The opportunity to make a real difference started in 2020 with the creation of GEM Wellness Warrior to focus on being the CEO, Chief Energy Officer of one of the most valuable assets in life, one's health. And I think he has a lot to say about that. We will talk in much deeper detail about your career. But first of all, welcome, Martin. Welcome to my podcast.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to where this conversation is going to go.
I know. Well, I usually want to dig deeper into the person itself first, because I believe that people link and connect with people and resonate on deeper level when they hear their stories. And you have quite extensive story to tell. I know we touched on it when we were on a call together, and I know you are a global trooper. You lived in Australia, you are back in UK. Where exactly? I forgot. I'm so sorry.
So, Vera, I'm actually in a beautiful city, the city I was born, actually, in Glasgow.
That's
And
right.
you are correct. I have spent the last 23 years living in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah. And we talked about it, but let's go back a little longer than that, if I may. Tell me about Martin growing up, and what was keeping you up? What did you like to do? What were your life like before you
Sure.
even entered the
So I
world?
was brought up in a very, dare I say it, because it's very British in this aspect, a very kind of middle class background. My father was an accountant, My mother was the CEO of the house, actually. I was one of five kids.
Mm.
So poor mum had to get everything from, there was 11 years between the eldest and the youngest, and I was the one in the middle.
11
But
years, you said, right?
yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
so to be honest, I think I had a very normal, sheltered childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Went to school. I was always that type A kind of personality. I was quite gifted at school. I was quite intelligent, breezed through exams, etc. And then when I was about 16, um, I thought it was quite easy at school. But then I failed a lot of my exams when I was about 16. So then I realized that, hey, look, got to do some work here, right? As you do.
Yeah.
But around that time, I was always really interested in what do you feed people who are working in the oil rigs in the northern part of Scotland?
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, the oil rigs in the middle of the North Sea between Scotland and Norway. Weather is pretty foul most of the time, pretty treacherous. But food is a quintessential part of connecting people, a productivity tool. It's got to be really good food, good standard. But unfortunately, my career path led me a different pathway. And I ended up studying my first degree actually is in hotel management with a lot of nutrition. And I
Mm-hmm.
understood the basics of real food, how to prepare it, how to cook it, I was going to say how to honor real food and
Yeah.
why it's important.
In such a young age, that's impressive. Because usually young kids don't pay attention. They just, they just
No,
trash.
I was really interested in how do you gut a fish? How do you prepare a fish? And I'm talking, decent sized salmon and trout, etc. How do you get a cooked chicken and make it taste really well? So additional salt, sauces, how to make them from scratch, not the cardboard crap that you buy in supermarkets.
Yeah. So did you cook yourself
Yes,
in?
yes. And I really enjoyed it. And, when you've got siblings, and I took upon myself when I was about 14 to learn how to cook, and
Yeah.
I would make the dinner most nights for the family, then you
Wow.
could be adventurous.
I didn't know that about you. See, that's another thing we have in common. I used to run a restaurant in Czech, and then one of my businesses here was a chef, holistic chef, preparing specialized diets for people with compromised immune system. So we share this big passion for proper food and the
Proper food
like you
and
said,
also
honor
the
it. Yes.
the proper preparation
Yeah.
of good food. You want to make it look good on the plate. You also want to, if you're marinating food, let it marinate for several hours.
Yeah.
So this was a great learning. I absolutely loved it. But my career path was going a different way when I was about 22. I decided that within the hotel management and restaurant business, you know yourself, Vera, you could work 120 hours a week and maybe get like a Tuesday evening off
Right.
if you were lucky.
Holidays and everything done, working.
So I thought, I'm not working my backside off in order to get a Tuesday afternoon off.
Mm.
So I decided to go back to university, and I did a master's degree in international marketing. And that really opened my eyes to a bigger world. I learned a lot of things around language and around advertising and concepts and promotions. And now we're talking around the mid 90s here, early 90s, and where there was a real vibrancy, particularly in Europe. Paradoxically, I was living here in Glasgow, so there was a real vibrancy. Europe was really, there was an abundance of energy. It was only several years after the Berlin Wall had come down, so there was a lot of youthfulness, if that makes sense. It was a great time to be in Europe.
Yeah.
There was an
Big
intriguement.
changes, excitement about the changes.
Yeah, there was a passion. It was no. I was going to say there was no longer that kind of underworld, but there was a mystique. There was people would try things. There was, you could push the boundaries a little bit, and I was going to say get away with things, but you had fun.
Yeah.
And doing the marketing degree, really doing the master's really opened my eyes. And then I spent a couple of years working in what you call fast moving consumer goods. And, I'm 26 at the time. I was working for a beer company in Scotland, promoting beer to Scottish people. What a gift. You're 26, you're going around pubs and clubs, you're selling this. You'll know the beer. It was Budweiser. Right, not the Czech one, but the American one.
Oh, yeah, well.
So people would be drinking Budweiser all the time. And I'll give you an example. So I had in the UK, you can buy alcohol in supermarkets. In Australia, you cannot. It's two separate licenses.
Mhm.
My mates would walk into the supermarket and they would be buying competitive products. And I'd be like, put them down, I'll buy you Budweiser. So we all had Budweiser parties and things like that. But I was in my mid-20s. It was a bit of fun.
You knew how to do business with fun.
Yeah, and you got to know the people who'd be selling gin and whiskey. So you would swap a case of beer for a couple of bottles of whiskey or a couple of bottles of gin. And it was a great atmosphere, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's also, again, going back to that point where I said about the hospitality industry, you found yourself consumed with work. You found yourself, you'd be working weekends because you just did, and people associated. So if you would go out at night time, you had to drink Budweiser beer. But if you're working for Budweiser beer, the last thing you want to be doing is drinking the same stuff all the time. So I went to an organization which was a recruitment consultant organization here in Glasgow and said, look, I'm looking for another job. This is what I'm looking for. And 6 weeks later, I ended up working for them because they were looking for somebody to work as a commercial brain to run part of their business. So I did that for several years. And gratitude to that organization took me to Australia in the year 2000.
I was just gonna ask, at what point you end up there?
So, and this is a kudos I would have for younger audience here. If you do get the chance to work for an organization that does have footprints across the globe, it's a great opportunity to move countries and experience different ways of doing things.
Absolutely, 1,000,000% agree with you. Yeah. It's
Right?
experience like no other. Yeah.
And not just that, they take care of the visas, all the paperwork, all the behind the scenes things, which is fantastic. So I would highly encourage, get a job, start looking on the international job pages. It's the best way to start getting exposure and experiences in different parts of the globe.
Yeah.
So they took me out to Australia, and although Australia speaks the same form of English, it's a very different culture. I knew about 2 people when I arrived there. And I'll be honest, I made a couple of mistakes. The biggest mistake I made was I lived on my own when I went out there, rather than house share or share an apartment. If you have the opportunity to move, but if you're in a partnership or if you're with family, then your kids have a school life, so you get to meet people.
Yeah.
Your partner has a circle. But when you're on your own and you decide to live on your own, it can be quite isolating.
True. Yeah.
So I found it a little bit difficult the first 12, 18 months, I'll be really honest. And although I did meet a lot of great friends, don't get me wrong, it was a very expat lifestyle. And I found it quite false, if that makes sense. That you weren't really Australian. You were living a European lifestyle in Australia, but there was a real, I don't know what I'm doing here, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does, because I'm someone who live in 3 different countries, so I can totally relate to it.
So the thing that changed me was I was with a company at the time and that transferred me, and one of my colleagues was a runner and said, "Oh, Martin, there's a running group." And that really, I'm a runner, and that opened the door for me to go and meet new people.
You found your
And
tribe. Yeah.
you meet your tribe. And one of the things that I would say, which is really important about connecting with a sports group or your tribe, whether it be music tribe or whatever, you meet people for who they are, not what they are, if that makes sense. Not the job title, not the surface layer. And the beautiful thing about running, you meet people in a pair of shorts, t-shirt, no makeup on, and a pair of running shoes. That's it.
Yep.
So you meet people at 6 in the morning or whatever, and it was great. So it also raised my game to become a better runner. And I got exposure to incredible locations across Australia, especially in the east coast of Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, running some incredible places. So much so that I also in 2002, I ran in Melbourne and I qualified to race the Boston Marathon, and I've ran the Boston Marathon a couple of times.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So, and for those who are aware or unaware, sorry, to race the Boston Marathon, you have to qualify to get into it.
Yeah.
So, raised my game, and then I met somebody and I fell in love, got married in 2006, had kids.
Still in Australia, right?
Still in Australia. And then in 2012, I remember sitting, the end of 2011, sitting. Now, you've got to remember, Australia is completely different from the Northern Hemisphere. It's summertime for Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting on the deck of my house, going, what am I going to do next year? New Year resolutions. I was turning 42. I had 2 kids, wife, mortgage, that corporate mentality. I was working in an area called cybersecurity. I'd come out of recruitment and I got a job in cybersecurity and I worked in that space. And I was really enjoying it. I was enjoying the thrill and the fun and I'll be honest, the pay packet was fantastic as well, right?
Yeah.
And one of the goals I had in 2012 was I was turning 42 that year. And I decided that I wanted to run another marathon, 42 kilometers to represent 42 years on this planet. Makes sense. For
Yeah.
those runners out there, they'll get it. For those who don't run, sorry, but it's a running compulsion.
Very symbolic. I like it, yeah. Yeah.
But the wheels fell off that year. In the April of that year, my younger sister lost her life to breast cancer at the age of 37.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that.
6 weeks later, my father was on a 6-foot wall around his house here in Glasgow, chopping overhanging branches, and he slipped off the wall. And as he slipped off the wall, he had a pair of garden secateurs in his top pocket, and they pierced him in the heart and he bled to death.
Oh my Lord. Yeah. Wow.
Then 6 months after that, my marriage split up. And then 6 weeks after that, in November 2012, I was diagnosed with stage 4 blood cancer.
I know. Quite a twist compared to our plans, right?
Completely. And when I was told I had stage 4 blood cancer, I just started crying.
I don't blame you. And here you are living healthy life, running, taking care of yourself. It's incredible. We don't know what tomorrow brings. What was going through your mind first?
Lots of swear words that I don't think are appropriate for your podcast at this moment, but just think of the 6th letter of the alphabet and usually about 4 letters long and a lot of them.
Of course. It is mind-boggling when you think of it, because it happens to anybody. Never mind what kind of, how you take care of yourself or stuff. Stress is involved, all these things.
I couldn't agree. And you asked me what was going through my mind. I'll be really honest with this. When I was diagnosed, what's the first thing that you do to numb a lot of this pain and a lot of the emotion? You go to the nearest bottle shop and you consume lots of alcohol.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like hopeless vision. And here you are with children and provider, right? It's the mind-boggling situation. I can only imagine.
So thankfully, it was actually once I got over the shock and realized that the pathway now, I've done a lot of work since then, but that moment in time, they said, right, you're in for chemotherapy, you're in for a few months of chemotherapy, and it's every 2 weeks. Here's what's going to happen. So you go into that prescriptive mode and almost that teacher-pupil mode, if that makes sense. And for me, it was the insight of my hematologist said, Martin, I'm going to recommend that you go and see a psychologist as part of your treatment plan. And it was a psychologist that said to me, Martin, welcome to new beginnings. You can get through this if you're willing to put in the work. And since then, I really do value the input of psychological services and other modalities. They are essential for your well-being.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So many people underestimate that part. They think they will just push through themselves, and it's never pretty. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. One that did not work for me, because I underwent chemotherapy, I had a lot of people putting needles into me, pins into me. So I felt if anyone touched my body, they were going to put a pin in me. So I didn't like going for a massage because it had this
Yeah.
connection.
Connection. Yeah.
And I thought, no, it's not working for me. While I know others that worked well for them, but it didn't work for me.
Mhm.
So you've got to try things, if that makes sense, and be open. And also, you've got to rest, which is a real aspect of difference. Now, for me, it was also a gift, if that makes sense, because it allowed me to actually really look and go, how can I heal myself? And I remember going to see some dietitians and nutritionists, and all they would do, Vera, is say, eat this, eat this, eat this. They didn't really care what impact the drugs were doing to me. And I'm going, but here's the drugs that I'm having. Doesn't matter. Just eat all of this. And I'm going, there's a disconnect here.
Yeah.
And, I call out, if you are listening to this and you are going through chemotherapy, please work with someone who understands the depletion your body will be going through if you're putting these chemicals into your body.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you touched on something very serious because most of the official dietitians are going through government guidelines that are far away from what the body really needs to thrive and to be able to fight this and get rid of the chemicals. I have had very horrific experience with a team of, and I don't want to name names, but it was a team that was assigned to us to assist with my husband's treatment. And at that time, it was my business to do the diets that are actually proper for people with compromised immune system, because that's what chemo does. And also, you have to understand that person going through that treatment is going to be nauseous. It couldn't tolerate certain foods. It can't. You have to make it adaptable to their unique needs because everybody body responds a little differently. And that was something that I was also probably will never forget when the dietitian that is assigned to your oncology team tells you, oh, you can give him anything. Just if he's nauseous, maybe give him a toast. Maybe just not dirt, like greasy burgers and fryers. And I was just staring at her, and what was going through my head was like, so you are assuming that's what we eat. You never ask one question about what our lifestyle is, what I'm already doing for him, how we juicing and doing like stuff that fills his body with antioxidants, which was useless anyway. But anyhow, that what you just touched on, it's find somebody who understand holistically how things are connected in the body and what it does, what food can do or cannot do, or can interrupt, actually.
I'm going to take a little step further there and put it into language which I think is needed. The involvement of an accountability partner, i.e., a health coach that has a strong understanding of nutrition, will be as vital as those who are working in modern medicine. So I'll give an example. When I went through chemotherapy, the medical term is peripheral neuropathy, but in simple terms, I'd lost the feeling in all my fingers, a constant pins and needles. I mentioned that my kids were really little. I could not play Lego with my kids because I had no feeling in the tip of my finger to put two pieces of Lego together.
Right.
When my daughters were 4 and 6 at the time, so I'm getting frustrated with myself, and they're getting frustrated because I can't help them.
And they can understand. Yeah.
There's no way they can understand.
Right.
Chemotherapy, one of the key things chemotherapy does is it depletes you of a thing called B12. And in simple terms, you need B12 to keep your blood cells flowing properly.
Hmm.
And food is a major component to get that into you properly.
So how did you approach it with yourself? Did you start searching for somebody that can help you, or did you start searching for information yourself?
So a bit of both. I went to some nutritionists, as I mentioned, and they just put out, in America, it's known as a standard American diet. In Australia, standard Australian diet.
Yeah.
Eat this, eat that, eat that. And I started putting on a lot of weight, and I'm going, this is crap. And like what you just said, I bought the blender, I bought the juicer, thinking that that's going to work. I also realized economically it was damn expensive. In Australia, for example, you would buy celery. A whole bunch of celery might be $3, but you only use 2 bits of it, so you throw most of it away because it goes off in the fridge.
Yeah.
So it was trial and error. And I went back to my first love of, wait a minute, I learned all this stuff at university about food, real food. So I started going protein heavy. I started, which is known now as ketogenic. I started looking at eliminating those things that were making me ill. And when I say ill, it's those things that are high in carbohydrates and high in sugar.
Right.
Let's get something out there. Cancer and sugar don't like each other.
I thought it would be the different. I think cancer loves sugar. It grows on it.
Yes. So eliminate sugar. And in the English language, there are over 200 words for the word sugar. And crap is not one of them.
Yeah.
Sugar does an incredible disservice to your gut.
Yeah.
But it's not just the pure sugar, it's all the hidden sugars.
Yeah.
I touched on the fact about drinking alcohol. Alcohol is laden with sugar. Be really mindful. Alcohol is not sugar-free.
Yeah.
So I went through a process of elimination of things. Eliminating fruit. Again, fruit is very high in natural sugars. I started eliminating carbohydrates, and in about 2019, I went carnivore. And to this day, I'm about 90% carnivore.
Mm-hmm.
And to put this into context, in Australia, post-chemotherapy, so I had chemotherapy for 5 months, and then 2 years of intense drugs. And then every 3 months, I had a blood test and an appointment with my hematologist. Since around 2018-19, when I really started looking after my diet, my hematologist would keep saying, I don't agree with your lifestyle because you should have relapsed at least twice by now.
Interesting, right?
So I'm going, wait a minute. I'm beating cancer, and I would say nutrition is about 80%. The other 20, I regained my love back for running, exercise. And since 2013, I'm a yogi. I practice lots of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting that yin and yang, and I'm very open to meditation, the power of breathing. There's still a hell of a lot I've still got to learn, but you start opening yourself up. As you open yourself up, you're letting go of things that no longer serve you.
I think that's the mental part of it, because you need to manage your stress better and release it from your body and calm yourself down despite whatever is going on. That's a big part of healing as well, of course. Yeah.
You know, a lot of people use the phrase creating boundaries. Well, that's true about your own boundaries, saying no to things that no longer serve you. And the biggest change for me was coming out of corporate in 2020 with the establishment of my own company.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky. They were doing some retrenchments. I took a package. Setting up a well-being company in the middle of COVID was either brave, stupid, or a combination of both. But I also, just to add on to that, in 2017, you asked me about how did I search it, etc. A friend of mine put me in contact with with a health organization called ACNEM, ACNEM, which stands for Australasian College of Nutritional Environmental Medicine. And I got accepted to do their correspondence courses and to do their primary modules. And that took about 18 months of study because I didn't come from a biological background or a chemical background. I didn't understand some of the basic concepts. So it was quite hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I passed the exams and I got certification on them. Once I got certified, the board of the college started watching me and keeping in contact with me. And in 2020, I was asked to become a board director for them to help teach general practitioners in Australia nutritional medicine.
Yeah.
So that was a gift, if that makes sense. But my biggest goal was to get this message over into layman's terms to those people particularly in corporate world, that your health is your greatest asset in life. To put it into simple terms, to become a doctor in the US, in the UK, and in Australia, you spend less than 3 hours over 7 years on nutritional insights.
I'm very aware of that. I have several doctors on my podcast who confirmed 1 day at max. Yeah.
Now there are
Insane.
Now there are trailblazing organizations and colleges that are shifting that mentality, and congratulations to them.
Yeah.
But there are very, very few of them. But let's start looking at those who are trailblazing in that space. And the beautiful thing in the US, for example, there's a lot of collaboration between corporate, medical world, and trying to make a difference. And that is fantastic. So again, a big shout out to those guys.
Yeah.
But we need more of them. We need more collaboration in order to combat, which I would say is a global pandemic of ill health.
Correct. Yeah. And it's not just what is happening in the medical world, it's what's happening in pharma, it's what's happening with our food, how is it manipulated and completely Frankensteined and being sold as a healthy, which is the biggest deception of, I mean, we follow the same sources, so I know that you know all these things. And it's just, I wish I can shout it out of the rooftops for some people who still would tell you, well, you know, if you're starting anything new, go to consult it with your doctor. The doctor is the last person that knows these things. They, I split with my own doctor because she was still going through like 90s, 80s guidelines. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This is debunked a long time ago. And I just couldn't take it anymore because she was unaware. They don't have time to follow the latest trends unless it's their personal passion. They just go by what they are told, and it's ridiculous. And look what's happening. And going back to what you became, I would love to ask you, because I didn't ask that Roderick that was on my podcast as well. If somebody never heard the term metabolic health, how would you explain it? What is this about? Because some people think, oh, you mean I eat keto? No, it's much more complex than that. I would love you to kind of simply explain what metabolic health means to people that never heard of it.
So I'm going to put it into 5 key components. And if you think about it, 5 things, 5 fingers and a thumb, right? The main one is, without doubt, nutrition. If you look at your physical body, where is the central part of your physical body? Your gut.
Yeah.
So what we feed our gut is critical. So you look at gut health. Gut health impacts your brain and your mindset. So we look at nutrition. The next one we really look at is the superpower that we take for granted, the importance of sleep. Now, the importance of sleep also means the impact of natural light. So getting away from the screens, getting into nature will increase your sleep and enhance your sleep capability. And you mentioned there about stress. If we're uber stressed, it will impact our sleep. Sleep is a superpower to look after your liver. Learn to love your liver. The third one is movement/exercise. Now that could mean different things to different people. So I'm all for, if your passion is karate or martial arts, that's your passion. If your passion is running, go and run. If it's walking, go and walking. But for God's sake, start moving. I would also add in there, if you can add things like resistance training. Now, you don't have to be at the gym. Start learning how to carry your shopping, for God's sake. Protect your muscles. Swimming is probably the best one, because swimming and yoga, for example, use 80% of your body, the fibers in your body. And with yoga in particular, you're stretching them. And the power to be a good swimmer and to be good at yoga, not that it has to be good, if that makes sense. It all comes down to the power of the breath. Learning to breathe properly and be economical with your breath. The fourth one is the importance of self-love. Now, there's a couple of little things that you can do, and we don't do this very well in the cultures in the Western culture. I'm lucky, and so are 5 million of my countrymen and women who are Scottish. We learned how to roll the letter R when we speak, right? So if you think of brave heart, brr, we roll the R letter. So a little tool that the listeners can do every single morning after, when you look in the mirror first thing in the morning, take a moment, put your left hand over your right shoulder, give yourself a pat in the back and say, I am brilliant. And watch your body energize that morning.
I love this.
And my fifth one, I mentioned just 5. The fifth one combines all of these together. And that's remember your ABC. Always be curious. Learn how to question things. Learn to go beyond the fear. Learn to go beyond what we actually think. If we're thinking we're living in the past, we're asking questions, we're going to the future.
Right. That's absolutely right. Yeah. And the more we speak, the more we repeat what we already know, the more we listen, we are learning something new. Even if you question it, even if you're not open-minded, open your mind and listen to different perspectives, because you will conclude your own conclusion eventually, but you can only make your own conclusion based on information. So if you keep repeating the same thing, like you just said, it's not going to happen for you. And I think the thinking lately is the most underestimated skill that people are not even using. And everybody will tell you, of course I'm thinking. No, you're consuming information. That's a lot of noise, but you are not really putting yourself in a quiet space to be able to actually go through that millions of input and make some conclusion for yourself. Think strategically, whether it's your health or life or what your goals are, what you're really doing. Because I'm afraid that most of us just running the race and just, rinse and repeat next day. And I think that's part of us being well or not being well, because we don't even stop to think for a minute.
Well, it's funny. It's one thing I've been working with some clients, and and even on myself, actually. If your listeners are used to are aware, sorry, of one of the protocols in nutrition around intermittent fasting, whether it be for 12 hours, 24 hours, the science is there to say the longer you can go on a fast, and again, I'm going to do a caution here. If you are going more than 24 hours on a fast, please work with an accountability partner, a health coach, to help you through that transition. It's worth investing and you will gain more out of it. But parking that aside for a second, let's take the protocol of fasting. Why not apply that to technology 1 or 2 days a week? And put your phone and your devices away for 12 or 24 hours. And get away from the screen and get outside into Mother Nature.
Wow, now you ruffled some feathers, because that's the moment we realize how freaking dependent we are.
Now, here's a caution, and that's a great point, right? If you are going for a hike in the countryside, take your phone with you, be sensible. But you don't need to be checking on Snapchat, Instagram, or whatever your favorite social media challenge platform is.
Yeah.
Put it away, put a blocker on it. But also, what is really important is tell your mates, just send them a text message. Listen, I'm doing this fasting thing from technology from a Saturday night to a Sunday night. I'm not ignoring you, but I'll get back to you at 7 o'clock on Sunday. Then they're going to start asking you questions. Why did you do it? How do you feel? So you're creating that ripple of change.
Yeah. I think that challenging yourself is the first requirement to see any changes coming your way, isn't it? Whether it's food, whether it's a lifestyle, whether it's not enough sleep, or watching TV until you fell asleep, which is the worst thing you can do, or challenging yourself with the fasting like that. That's really great input. Yeah.
The other little one that I've been doing, a part of a protocol that I apply is called the Breston Protocol. And Breston Protocol is a 36-step protocol around preventional methods on cognitive decline, i.e. Alzheimer's and dementia. Now, let me put it out there. Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, all present the same way in the gut. 80% of the traits are the same way. Cancer is known as type 4 diabetes. Alzheimer's type 3. So guess what? If we address type 2 diabetes, you're reducing your risk of these two horrible lifestyle diseases by up to 70%.
You just said it, lifestyle diseases, because they are completely preventable. And when you think of it, knowing what you know and seeing what the food industry is doing with our food, hiding all these, I think there's about 50 different terms for sweeteners or even the artificial sweeteners, which is even worse enemy than the regular sugar. So knowing all this, you would think they would start catching up. They do the opposite. So then the strategy is there to create lifelong patience.
Without shadow of a doubt, I kind of shout out here, start looking at some of the labels in not only the food products that we're buying, but the chemicals we're buying, whether it be shampoos or moisturizers. Start becoming curious around What are you putting onto your body, on your body and in your body?
Yep.
Right? It's a well-known fact that many of us, by 9 o'clock in the morning, have been exposed to up to 150 toxins.
Yeah.
You asked the question about stress. If you've been diagnosed with pre-type 2 diabetes, you will lower your health span by up to 20 years. I don't want to be 60 and taking pills,
No.
right? I've already had that pleasure at the age of 41. No, thank you. So my mission is to try. And unfortunately, as much as you and I put some great stuff out there, Vera, it comes down to the responsibility of you, the listeners, to accept the responsibility for your health.
Yeah.
I can't do it for you, and you can't do it either, Vera.
I know that. Yeah. You can bring the horse to the water, but you can make him drink.
Correct. And one of the key things, that aspect of, oh, my diet starts on Monday or the New Year resolution. Well, every day is a new day. What are you doing as the Chief Energy Officer of over 30 trillion cells in your gut every single day?
Yeah.
That's your responsibility.
You reminded me of the doctor that I know said very powerful thing, and it gets you thinking, because we are really, some people are only started taking care of themselves when something hit them, and they don't realize that, let's say heart attack, if you have all of a sudden heart attack, that started in your body probably 7 to 15 years ago by the choices that you made then, that grew into undetected issues that eventually resulted in this. And he posted this very powerful question that is also stopping, and I would love people to think about that. Most people that if they suffer heart attack, it's on Monday morning, when probably the stress related to going back to work, whatever it is, there is a statistically shown that a lot of heart attacks happens on Monday morning. And today is Wednesday when we record this. Let me ask a question. If you knew you're gonna suffer heart attack on Monday morning, would you do anything different today? And it's something to think. So many people are looking for quick fix, and the pills you touched on. And okay, well, I'm okay, I'm healthy. If you are on medication, you are not. You are having controlled symptoms, but it doesn't mean that it's resolving the problem. So going to it fundamentally like you are, with the metabolic health, with the holistic look at what is body doing, what are we feeding it, what are we surrounding ourselves, and that's much more complex than just losing weight, that many people think, oh, if I just lose weight, I'll get healthier. You probably will, but if you keep eating garbage and just lower calories, it's not gonna improve your health overall. And I just would love to people realize that sometimes they take better care of their car, that they take care of themselves. And you can exchange car, you can buy a new one. We only have this one body.
One of the things I really advocate, we all have a unique footprint on this planet, and that unique footprint is your birthday, right? So it's a gift of a day. And if you're lucky enough to have a respected partner, say to your partner, for my birthday, I'm going to go and check in with a functional medical practitioner, a good dental hygienist, and a health coach. Please come with me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's at least once a year. Now, if your partner comes with you, they're going to tell their friends. You're going to tell your friends, so you can create that ripple impact. That at least once a year, you're able to do that.
Mhm.
Now that at least is a start.
And that's taking personal responsibility. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if you start doing it as a parent, your kids will start seeing and understand the value of looking after your health.
There's one thing I would like to say here as a kind of disclaimer. Of course, we are not here advocating against medical care or doctors or official advice that you may be receiving from a medical professional, especially if you have diagnosis. We are not doctors. We are simply questioning the status quo based on the information that is being fed by certain industries. We have learned that the truth is somewhere else. And people like Martin and that has spent years and years in studies to be able to see what really is the cause of issues. Doesn't mean he's a doctor and he will diagnose you and heal you, but he's offering you a different lifestyle approach that may allow your body heal itself much more efficiently than any pill can do. And also he's using his own experience because even though there's no such a thing as a study of one, it's very compelling testimonial when you have tried things that you realize on yourself were much more effective than any treatment you could get. And I think that there is place and time for treatments, and absolutely doesn't mean that you should refuse any of that. Absolutely not. But combine it with powerful approach that you can help your own body to heal. I think that's the most important thing. So I just don't want to anybody think that we are here to treat, diagnose, to heal anything. We are not the doctors. This is a lifestyle that you can choose to take your own charge of your health and do the part that is up to you.
I think that's a great thing to remember. Now, I work extensively with other medical professionals. So, for example, if I ask a client to get a blood test, I will seek the permission of that client to get a medical practitioner to look over the blood test,
Right.
because I do appreciate they are trained in areas I'm not, and I value their input.
And that information is important for you to see what's going on in the body.
Correct. So
Yeah.
they might see something that I can't see or ask for further investigation. And that's a real big aspect about what it is that I do in a coaching basis on one-on-one, that I will work and with other people around the globe and help reshape, because I learn from the medical profession and vice versa. And even with my clients, I learn from my clients too.
Yeah. And when you think of it, some people think of coaching as a huge investment. I think it's investment into your life and health. A lot of people are talking about longevity, but of course, if you pursue longevity, you want to do so as active and vital and well as possible. Like you mentioned before, you don't want to be at 60 popping pills and thinking you are healthy, because that's the opposite of it. And the sooner we take responsibility and pursue things that will improve our health naturally, and not depend just on putting out the fires when something happens, I see it as an investment that's most fundamental for my life. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people with a lot of money that the money cannot buy them the health that they lost. And it may be too late for some people to start taking responsibility when really something serious happened. I don't want to sound negative, but it sometimes breaks my heart when I see people walking away from something that can help them, and they will tell, well, I have always ate fast food, and look at me, I'm 65 or something like that. even that fast food was completely different components 50 years ago. When I just saw somebody's post, it used to have like French fries, you know, in McDonald's. It used to have 3 or 4 ingredients. It should be oil, potato, right? Salt. It has a list now. So if you start looking at how much the food that you may be familiar with from your youth changed, where the nutrition come from, how depleted even the vegetables are, then you start questioning everything. And you touched on something, and I was going to ask you, because that's also some fundamental disagreement in this space. You are promoting carnivore or very, very quality protein oriented diet. There are others who are promoting vegan style. And of course, each of them has their own very powerful arguments. What would you say as it relates to your own approach to health when you were challenged with a significant challenge?
So that's a great question. There's a few things there. Carnivore works for me, but I've put in a lot of work to make it work myself. You are correct. I do advocate for a ketogenic, low-carb lifestyle. And that also means low toxins. So keep that in mind. The olive branch, and there's no food pun intended here, I have for veganism and vegetarian. Low carbs on this side, carnivores on this side, vegetarians on this end. I will go hand in hand with them to say, let's eliminate ultra processed foods.
Yeah.
All right. I will also go and vehemently argue that a vegan lifestyle in particular, there are no health benefits to a vegan lifestyle. But I do understand why people will do it, right? But please understand, if you go a vegan lifestyle, you have to heavily supplement. And I'll be really honest here, if you are going to pursue a vegan lifestyle and you're wanting my coaching services, I'm not the right person to come to.
It's a fundamental difference there, and the way you have to still get proteins to your body, and like you said, you have to supplement how to give body what it needs, while it's a very restrictive diet
I'll give you an example. I'm coaching a lady of Indian descent, Indian background, who's a vegan.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, and now she's got very aggressive brain cancer. And I'm saying, listen, you need to get some liver into your diet. If you're going to put smoothies, you need to put liver into your smoothies. You need B12.
Yeah.
Honestly, I could be speaking in a foreign language.
It's very hard. It's religious, and it's, yeah.
So there are other ways, infusions you can do, etc. But to be really honest, we spoke earlier there about the tools that we give people. I need to make sure my boundaries are there as well for my own sake. And it's not being selfish. But if you want to pursue a vegan lifestyle, as I've said, I'm not the right individual to come and work with. Yeah. I can help you on other things, but you know what? I'm doing you a disservice because I'm going to try and push carnivore and ketogenic lifestyle down you and a high animal-based protein. Yeah. If you don't want to accept that, go and work with someone else.
Correct. Yeah. There's plenty of coaches out there that can help you if this doesn't resonate with you. And that's the whole point why I like to feature coaches here, because everybody have their own tools and ways to get you there. They will all help you, but you may not resonate with what Martin is doing, and you may be seeking somebody who does something that fits your lifestyle. The question is, maybe the reason you're not well is because that lifestyle needs to change. But that's a question for you and decision for you to make. And it's probably hard to admit, because sometimes it's religious or mental or just belief. But when it goes to your health, it would be worth it to really consider the information, consider the data and science on it, and just be responsible and look at everything before you decide one way or the other. I love what Martin is saying. I would totally trust him. It's the knowledge, expertise in a combination with your personal experience. It's very powerful combo. And you showed the stage 4 cancer is no joke. And it's hard to say, but if you didn't look at everything that you can do for yourself, who knows what the result would be. And you were way too young to give up. And so sometimes that desperation leads you to the best outcomes in life, because it led you to educate yourself even more than you already knew about food, and see and look at it holistically, what everything is causing the problems for my body, and look at eliminating it. And that's absolutely powerful. That's, if that was the only thing that we got away from this podcast, I hope much more. That would be super powerful for people. If somebody listens to this and they have no idea where to even start or what to do, and they may not be in position to reach out to you yet, what would you tell them if something is going on, God forbid, already, or they really just want to take charge and start paying attention and really doing right things? What would you recommend for them to start with, to make it simple? Because some people really are resistant to change, I know that. But if you take responsibility of your health, there is no question if or when. It's really, it needs to happen. So what would be maybe the first easier step for them to start taking charge?
So a really easy step. Get a pen and a blank sheet of paper, an A4 sheet of paper, and start writing down. And again, this is a great thing about technology now. You can take photographs. Start looking at the food that you're eating and start writing them down. Have on one column and on the other column, write down the ingredients of what's in them and do your own research. There are many search tools out there. Google is one of them. Just putting the words in, understanding, and follow that on your pathway. Going, why am I eating porridge or oats first thing in the morning? What's that doing to me? There's a massive growth with fortified milks, such as almond milk and oat milk. Quite frankly, they're made in a factory, guys. They are not natural.
Yeah.
So start looking at that. So if you did that over a week, you're going to grow within that week. You're going to be curious. You're going to start having this appetite to going, why am I feeling lethargic? Putting on weight, putting on this. It's on a blank sheet of paper there in front of you. If you're prepared to do that, you're on a simple pathway to start being open enough to looking after your health.
Yeah. Going back to think. Start thinking what you're doing. Yeah.
Start thinking, taking a moment. And I'll be really surprised when you start looking at what you are consuming into your mouth.
You said a beautiful thing with the milk. Sorry, I just before I forget, because so many people believe the marketing that this is the healthy alternative to natural milk. And yes, I know there's hormones issues and stuff issues. Again, everything is manipulated, but to look at something that is created at the factory as a healthy alternatives. And so it goes with the you wouldn't believe it's butter or you wouldn't believe it's meat thing. And I I have people in my life who are vegetarians, and they were so excited about this burgers coming out that look like a meat, and and I just flip it over and I'm like, look at this. You can have a beef, grass-fed beef, and make it yourself, or you can have this list of ingredients that you don't, half of it you don't even know what it is. And it's bioengineered. It's just mind-boggling.
So another little tip you can do, and if you're lucky enough to have kids or even grandkids, go to the supermarket and buy margarine. I know that sounds weird because I'm not for ultra-processed foods, but go and buy some margarine and go and buy some grass-fed butter. And if you live in a house, you can do this with the people you live with. All take a tablespoon and put them on certain parts of your garden, whether it be on the garden pavers or outside, and watch and see where the ants will go and get fed.
It's a
They will go
brilliant
nowhere
point.
near the margarine,
That's a brilliant point. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Margarine is 2 chemicals away from paint stripper. So if you start doing that, your kids and the people in your house are going to go, I don't want that. Why are the ants? They'll start. I mentioned there about the curiosity. Why are the ants going to feed from animal protein? And why is it good fats? Boom. And there it
I
is in
love
front of
this.
you.
I love this. And ants have these tiny little brains, and still they know
So they have a tiny
instinctively.
little brain. We have a tiny little brain up here, but we are manufactured to the point about the milk and all the other chemical crap to believe, thanks to marketing, thanks to people I did my master's degree in international marketing that put this stuff out there.
They are brilliant. Yep.
So do these simple little things. And again, you asked me the question, what can people do? So between the piece of paper and do this thing with the butter and margarine, it's there in black and white or in color for you to make your choice. Start making those choices.
This is best advice I ever heard. I love this because visual, and it's powerful visual. It's better than trying to convince somebody with 20,000 facts and information when they see it in their own eyes. It's
And that will
absolutely,
cost you all of $3.
yeah, yeah, brilliant. There is a reason why you're the best. Martin, is there a question that you wish people would ask you, but they never do when they start working with you?
Great question, actually. The question I want to ask, what are you prepared to do to make yourself healthy? So as a rule of thumb, I generally give people a bit of a guideline here. And bad pun here, I feed them a little bit. We have mentioned in this podcast about quick fixes. My analogy here, how long does it take a woman to carry a child in her stomach or during a pregnancy? It's generally about 9 months. If you're working with me, that's how long on a monthly basis, month by month basis, you would need to be working with me if you want to really get the best investment to change. There will be milestones throughout that time. I don't know what they are because I don't know you. I don't know how you're going to feel after an hour or 2 hours with me. But 9 months, if you start following some of the protocols I will share with you, there'll be a couple of key factors that you will have to do. You will have to go to a new tailor. You will have to buy smaller clothes. You'll have to go from a size large to a size medium. Tell me where the downsides of all of this is. Your waistline will shrink. You'll have more energy and you'll have this fragrancy and vibrancy around you that people will start saying, what the hell are you doing?
Those are some side effects.
Yes. So what are you prepared to do? I'm not going to give you a quick fix. There are some protocols I will help you along the way. But my job is to be your accountability partner. Either to be your lover at one point, and I mean that metaphorically, I don't mean that physically, but also to give you the kick up the backside when you need it. So it's a two-way process. The more I know about you, the more I will share about my life with you as well. Because although I've spent the last hour talking to you, I also have my fears, doubts, dare I say, oh shit moments as well. I'm only human, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm also learning there would be things I've probably written and I believe 3 years ago to be cast in stone. And the more I'm learning, the more I'm going, I might have been wrong there.
Mm-hmm. But it's also powerful when you admit with the new research and the new information, you can change and adapt to what is going on in the world and how to use that information properly. Not everybody is able to do that because they are fixed in their mindset and they just follow whatever. Yeah.
The other bit, go back to your point about what people can do right away. Take a photograph. Most people have got the ability to take photographs on their phone. Take a photograph of the content of your phone, go and get it printed out in the nearest place you can print it out in, and put it onto your fridge. And start looking at that through a different lens and going, what's that doing to my gut?
You mean the picture of food that they have? Yeah.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
The picture of crap food or boxes of food or whatever, and going, what is that doing? And over a short period, you're going to start asking questions of yourself.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to think as somebody who would be exposed to this and then start running and arguing with themselves like, oh my God, but that's no way to live. I couldn't even go out and I would be questioning everything. How do I even know it's gonna work for me? That's the usual question that we all face. What would be your answer there?
So a couple of things. I'll share with you. I very seldom eat out at night time because it's too expensive. But I do like I drink coffee. I do like going for coffee and eggs in my favorite coffee shop.
Mm.
You learn to change and adapt. You learn how to really value what is important. And again, I would start another little tool apart from that blank sheet of paper. Get a notepad and start writing down some of these feelings that you have. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Because if you're working with me individually, you might have this feeling on a Wednesday. You don't have your appointment with me until Tuesday. Please write these down.
Mm-hmm. The
Because
self-talk.
these are critical emotions.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not a psychologist, but I've done enough work and enough training to sort of go, right, let's see how you feel on that, because your hormones impact your emotional eating.
Martin, I think you touched on something else that would be important to mention. When you start doing choices for yourself to get healthier, you may lose your circle or things like an alcoholic when they go out and they couldn't stop drinking because all their buddies are drinking and they will be teasing him. I think it's very similar with this because once you start watching what you're doing with your health and you start doing different choices, you may not be able to stay in the same crowd that is shouting shots every Friday and stuffing their faces because you will be the odd sheep right now. So that would be something to also be prepared for, possibly.
I think that's a great point. And I'll give you a personal insight. So I've got a brother who's a couple of years older than me, and he doesn't drink alcohol, hasn't done for about 25 years, doesn't take tea or coffee, and he doesn't smoke or vape. But he drinks 3 liters of Diet Pepsi a day.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
When I'm in his house, I respect that I'm in his place of domain. He's not my client. So I have to switch off my brain to go, okay, just don't bother saying anything.
Yeah. You don't want to be the annoying brother.
Correct. He's not my client.
Yeah.
In his eyes, he's healthy, right? So it's not for me to say it. But I want to reframe something you've said, actually, Vera, if you don't mind.
Of
I
course.
want to put a bit of fear into some of your listeners here. If you're not prepared to look after your health, regardless of what age you are, please make sure your retirement fund or your pension fund has got $60,000 a year in it to pay for you in an aged care facility. Because that's where you're going to end up.
You will pay for it later. Yeah. That's absolutely true.
And more so in the US, I would say, but aged care is big business. Not one person in my tribe wants to end up in an aged care facility.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would
Right?
like that end of the life,
So
but we so many are facing it. Yeah.
I was in a room today of 20 people, and if you look at the graphs of ill health over the next 20 years, 70% of them will end up in an aged care home in the next 25 years.
It's gonna be bankrupting everything. It's impossible. I watch children here in America that are being obese at the age of 6, 7, 8, eating whatever the mass production is producing for them, making them actively sick. And then you see the entire family looks the same because they all follow the same guidelines. And it's who is going to pay for their healthcare for people like that. And I don't know what the percentage is, but it's really scary. And I have seen multiple people posting, look at any picture from 60s, from Woodstock, from people being on a beach. It would be a rare to spot somebody who was overweight, not to mention obese. And in today's standards, they were not eating healthy diets. They were eating burgers and fries and Coke and sugar. Something changed in the food industry that the diabetes and health and the heart health and all other many aspects went skyrocketing up. And maybe it's time you start thinking, putting down, like Martin says, what is in the food you are actually putting in your body that's supposed to nourish you and make your body work. It's
So if
mind-boggling.
you don't mind, I'm going to share a little tip that you can do. Again, if you're in a structure, a social structure, and a family structure that you've got young kids, do yourself a favor the next time you're in the supermarket, go and buy a thing called bicarbonated soda, right? Bicarbonated salts.
Mhm.
When you buy your vegetables and fruit, put them in the kitchen sink with a tablespoon of bicarbonate and wash the glyphosate and the chemicals off the fruit and vegetables. Get your kids to do it for you so they get to feel it, they get to ask questions. Oh, what fruit's this? What vegetable's this? What are you going to do with this, Dad? What are you going to do with that? You're creating that ripple of change.
Yeah. I also learned one thing. First of all, this makes the children learn what is going on with food and how they have to be careful. But it also creates bonds. I have had so many clients that complain that their kids are picky eaters. They are being exposed to foods that are so-called child foods. And so all these habits are created from when they are little. You expose them to every flavor. You involve them in cooking. You I had a pleasure to babysit my grandson when he was around 1 year old, and his mom was really particular on exposing him to everything. At 1 year old, 1.5 years, he was exposed to avocado, cilantro, all the flavors that were shaping his taste buds. At 3 years old, he wanted to try caviar just because he was curious how it tastes like. That kid was open to anything. And I remember it was such a joy because I love cooking. And so we would have him for a whole day, once a week. And we would go to kitchen and start cooking together. And he would go, Bobby, what's this? What is that? What is that? And I let him taste everything. I made curry. It was a little spicy. I was like, he's not going to touch it. He gobbled it up and wanted more. He saw me spiraling zucchini and he just loved the visual of it. And that was the first thing he went after on his plate. You make the food joy that it is and have kids participate in the process of preparing it. You won't be worried about picky eaters. That's one thing. And that's a foundation for their health in later years.
So a little insight I want to share. If you have the privilege to have children or grandchildren, and they have their bottle, even if they've come off breastfeeding, right? But they're still teething. If you cut a slice of cooked meat and put it in the bottle, that child will suck on that meat through the bottle if they want, or you could give it to them as it is to hold and suck. The heme iron in the red meat will act as a natural breaker to allow their teeth to come through and improve their immune system and their mouth function.
Yeah.
Without the chemical crap that we put into their mouths. Your child is got a low immune system. The red meat is full of all the amino acids to help break the teeth coming through.
Yeah.
Simple little biohack.
One little thing that I remember when you said immune system is the obsession with the antibacterial everything and keeping children clean and all this like freaking out that, oh my God, she's dirty and she's going to put it in her mouth. Oh my God, no. It's where they build their immune system. If your child playing in the mud, let it.
The other one I want to go there because we've got grandchildren as well, and I've got to turn a blind eye because it's, for certain reasons. Do yourself a favor. Do not buy Vaseline for your child. Do yourself a favor, and regardless of where you live, look up where you can buy tallow that can be used as a moisturizer. And you're going to use it on yourself. You can use it on your lips if you're getting chapped lips in the winter season or even in the summer season. And you can also put that tallow on every part of a baby. And you're creating a nurturing environment for them. Vaseline is a polite word for petrochemicals.
Yeah. Martin, we can go forever.
Good, I'm enjoying this.
You are totally wealth of knowledge and information. And I just hope that people, instead of feeling overwhelmed, will start thinking about these things and thinking about the marketing information that is on one side, leading you to something that is really not good for you. And the knowledge of people like Martin, who spend his lifetime shaping this and researching this and testing it on himself and realizing where the lie is and where the true lies. It's very powerful. And the more we know about this, the more mind-boggling to me it is that so many people are still kind of questioning the alternative way of life which I call it's the way of life. The alternative is what we are trying to do to fix it with all the artificial stuff and quick fixes. Yeah. Incredible. Incredible. Martin, is there something I did not ask you that you wanted to say?
Just a couple of things that if you are listening to this podcast and you want to get in contact with me, as a bonus and a thanks to yourself, Vera, for allowing me to be on this channel, please make reference to Vera's podcast and I will give a discounted rate for a consultation with you.
Okay. Thank you. And I will share all his contact information and social media in the show notes of this podcast. So feel free, if you are so compelled, feel free to reach out to Martin directly and ask your questions or get on a call with him and see how it may look like working with him to improve significantly your perspective of life and health. How would I say it? This was absolutely incredible, Martin. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope people did too. And like we said at the beginning, there's many coaches out there. The reason why I wanted to learn a little bit more about you as a human being is because I believe that people resonate with that first, and then the line of experience and knowledge second. But the combination of both would be winner for me if I was looking for somebody like Martin. And I hope you will give yourself a chance for healthy, full of vitality, longevity life, because we all have it in our power to take charge of our health. Well, so thank you
Pleasure
for being
spending time
here.
with you, my friend, and thank you for this opportunity.
And I'm so glad I understood my fellow friend from Glasgow, because I told you first time I visited and I believed that I didn't speak English because I couldn't understand one word people were saying there.
I've been back a year and I'm just beginning to get back into the vocabulary.
It is tough, and you know it's and Australia is not that much easier for somebody who, let's say, studied British English, then went to I self-study. I came to America, and so I always spoke just the American accent English, and then I watch British movies, and I have to really focus to understand. And to me, it's the proper English, but doesn't matter. The argument is never won between those countries. But you can speak English and go to Glasgow, and you feel like you never
Oh,
learned that
it's
language at all.
entirely different language.
So say goodbye in Glasgow accent.
Without swearing, they might just say, see you later. Or
See you later.
goodbye. Cheerio. I actually like adapting the Australian. You can say good day at any time of the day. And I have to say that's a brilliant way in Australia. You say good day. Could be
Yeah.
7 in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. You just say good day.
Yeah.
And it is, I thank my Australianism, my fellow Australians for actually some good language.
Yeah. And it's true, because we never know what time of the day somebody may come across this podcast and listen to it. So it was such a joy and pleasure to meet you and to have your knowledge here. And I'm hoping this may not be the last time we see
I
each
hope not.
other. You have a great rest of the day. And that was Martin Gillespie for you, the
Thank you.
expert in metabolic health.